This is the Beige and the Bold, and today we are watching Ensign, but not like in a creepy way. I am Van Velding, and I watched this episode when it originally aired.
And I'm Derek, and this is my first time watching Ensign in not a creepy way.
And you ready?
Yep.
And 3, 2, 1, engage. So we meet Mott the barber. We may only see this guy 1 or 2 times in this series.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen him. He had no speaking lines, but I feel like I've seen him before.
I think there was a Bolian barber before.
Yeah.
We've been in the barbershop before.
Yeah, we definitely have been in the barbershop. It is kind of funny, this notion of the support folks, or the folks that are kind of exist around the power structure, and how some of them are like, you know what? If I told Picard a thing and he did that thing, I could take credit for it with all my friends.
Yeah, that kind of goes against my perception of Federation, society and culture. Like, if Mott has like a degree in poli-sci and Romulan psychology, then yes, maybe. Yeah. And he could. And he has a gift of haircutting.
Yeah.
Which it doesn't look like. But, we don't really see that. He's just presented as some guy who's a barber, basically. Every barber I go to.
Yeah, but I mean, this is kind of interesting that we have like a day, like a slice of life sort of bit where it's not about science and it's not about military. It's just Picard getting his hair cut and like a chatty barber. I mean, that's good.
Because we're doing a 9/11, Derek. We're going to forget about a third of the way through this episode, but we're about to do a 9/11.
Well, how much?
So the establishment of a baseline.
How much of a 9/11? Is it times 100?
I forget. They're going to tell us how many people. I think it's like 9/11 times 40 in this episode. Back of the napkin.
So yeah, I like this Riker where he's like, yeah, I know he's annoying, but I mean, what's the value on like having a nice head of hair? And he looks up at Picard. Never mind.
Yeah. I feel like Picard was not the driving force on getting Mott aboard.
Yeah.
And couldn't you just have like the second best barber in the fleet?
Yeah, like why does it have to be always the top guy? You could have like, give me like the 8th best barber. It'll be fine.
Couldn't you just have Dr. Crusher sew his lip shuts and give him a feeding tube?
I wonder if there's only like one barber situation. You know what I mean? Like, he's the best barber, but there's only 5.
I guess the reverse Bolian centipede is probably going to undermine all of my moral credibility for the rest of this episode.
The reverse Bolian centipede. Oh man.
Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't think up a good reference for that scene in The Matrix.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Where he pulls the tube out of his throat.
No, where like in the very beginning when Agent Smith takes away his mouth.
Oh yeah, and like just
that's not even like the first one that comes to your mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's in row though.
Yeah.
Heck of an episode.
Yeah. Have I seen this actress before? She looks super familiar.
One, we haven't mentioned it yet, but this is the season of the episode of Conundrum, which is the first episode we watched in this series. We watched an episode of season 5 as our first episode of The Beige and the Bold.
Yeah.
So you have seen Michelle Forbes playing Ro Laren.
Oh, okay, interesting. It's so weird though that we don't have McDuff in the credits here. One day he's going to get it though.
Well, yeah, he's a special guest star.
I mean, it's just he does a lot of work around, just not kind of giving credit is all.
Yeah, well, with him and Ro, they're introducing characters that are more adversarial, characters that are going to shake things up, that aren't going to like go along with it.
Yeah.
Because even the production cast at this point is like, everybody kind of gets along. What if we had some different conflicts and some different perspectives?
And the Riker is kind of a jerk in this episode. Like, gee whiz. I
know.
I mean, I was like, F off Riker. Like, get the hell out of here. Like, I was so mad.
The deal is that the crew is completely against Ro. Like, we have to think the worst of Ro so that we can literally learn more about her.
Yeah.
And say, all right, she's actually a complicated character.
Yeah.
She's actually in a bad situation. We actually feel bad for her. She's not a jerk. She comes from a very specific place.
Right.
And Riker's part of selling that because they'll just let Riker yell at people.
Yeah, I know. And so we're kind of talking over this whole like relationship between Picard and like one of his bosses, you know. And this is kind of interesting, you know, he's not really like a captain of a ship, or he doesn't like manage a fleet of ships. He just is like a liaison. He's like a dude that is a career politician kind of thing, right? I mean, career diplomat rather.
I don't know if he's the first of what they call the evil admirals in Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Okay, interesting.
Where we go from, oh, look, the aliens are bad. They have to learn something. Maybe we learn a little something. We resolve their problem. We fly on. To, maybe the Federation is bad, yo.
Yeah.
And Star Trek: The Next Generation never fully commits to that. That is the purview of another show that I will directly reference perhaps later. Okay. But I don't think it's the way to go with Star Trek. I don't think it's very Star Trek. I think we should be good people.
Right.
I think to some extent the admirals are portrayed as having personal flaws.
Right.
Which works one or two times. Once you get to like a half dozen evil admirals, you're like, okay,
can we give
institutionally,
them
there's a problem. Yeah, it's like, play this differently. Give us a different source of this.
Yeah, can this guy just be a drunk? Like a drunk admiral? Can we just have one of those? Like, that's all he is?
So, and the deal is that this is 1991. This is literally September or October of 1991. This is almost exactly 10 years before 9/11.
Yeah.
And this is an episode where a terrorist attack forces the people that we relate with into military interventionism and to suddenly pay attention to terrorism and the people who are affected by terrorism and how they use it. And it's a good nuanced exploration of that. It isn't just terrorism bad.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, like, this is if my history is correct, this is kind of around the time frame where we would have given Osama bin Laden, assets and guns to fight on our side against the Russians, like in the Middle East. I think during we wanted to give them weapons before the Russian gave them weapons towards Saddam Hussein, rather.
This is around the time of us going into Iraq under George W. Bush.
Right.
Which would have been after the Iraq-Iran war and probably would have been after the Taliban kicked the Russians out of Afghanistan. It would have also been a couple years after the Beirut bombing.
Okay.
So Americans were not, like, historically immune to terrorism. It just didn't happen to us a lot.
Yeah. I
believe this is also a little bit after the Lockerbie bombing. So, you mentioned in the pre-roll the Jack Ryan stuff, and I bristled at that.
Yeah. And, like, I was
But you're right.
Yeah, I was trying, like, there was... Jack Ryan and Tom Clancy in general had kind of like this... There was a lot of story with, like, bureaucrats and terrorists and gun running and all this other kind of stuff and who's doing what. And I guess that's... I was trying to... I guess that figured like a shorthand, but then I quickly realized that Jack Ryan can also be like the run and gun, like, play it loose, proto Jack Bauer from 24 kind of thing.
Tom Clancy gets a bad rap because of Tom Clancy fans.
That's true.
But Patriot Games is about, Americans and terrorists and tries saying, terrorism is real. It's a real thing. Yeah. It's about the geopolitics, which this franchise is slowly turning towards. So now Ensign Rowe is finally being aboard and no one happy about it.
Yeah. And so, I mean, she's just coming up aboard. I guess she could have been in civilian clothes. And Riker's like, you need to wear your proper uniform. I'm like, dude, she is. What are you talking about? And then he's giving her static over an earring? Like, get the hell out of here, Riker. What the hell, man?
It's a religious earring.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, they let Worf wear that tank tread I stole from someone else on the internet.
Yes.
And...
well, it's part of the Klingon religion to keep war trophies on your person.
I'm a noble, and she's just a commoner with religion. Yeah. With nothing but religion, actually. So, I mean, come on.
And so here, and we go from that to immediately a scene where her two bosses are conspiring to give her a hard time. Like, what the hell, man? Like, this isn't how you lead. You don't like, hey, let's harass this girl just right out of Starfleet.
If Riker says, hey, look, I'm not going to cut her some slack just because... we're bad.
He didn't say he wasn't going to cut her slack.
He's like, hey, what's up, Ensign Laren? And she's like, actually, I'm properly dressed as Ensign Rowe. And he's like, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't know. He doesn't have to apologize. He's a freaking captain.
Yeah.
But he does.
I get that. And yeah, Picard definitely the one keeping an open mind here. Riker is the one that's just kind of being a petulant child. And he doesn't say that he's not going to cut her some slack. He's saying that, and as so far as his power allows, he's going to judge her by the highest standard that he can get away with. And I mean,
and that's fair. Knowing that she's already in the stockade,
right?
Then he's just gonna like wait for her to screw up, right, and then hammer her.
And it's like,
that's messed up. Like, what's the point of that?
Yeah, but I mean, this is a good like, hey, I don't play by the rules. Like, I'm kind of I'm rough around the edges, sort of scene.
Yeah, and we understand where she's coming from.
She just said, like, hey, look, man, if it was this or prison, I prefer this. And he's like, don't you mean could be honored? Like, dude, chill out. Like, you're just looking to be mad. He's also playing
attack dog for Picard.
Yeah, for sure.
And Picard gets to be the good cop.
Right, yeah.
Now, again, I don't know if Picard set that dynamic up where he's like, well, just be a dick, and I can do it in comparison.
Yeah, I'll work it in somehow.
But he's certainly making the best of it. And that little dismissed after she leaves. She's so insubordinate. She interrupts Captain Picard. That's so rude. And people are mean to Data, and we don't like them. But if they're mean to Picard, fuck them.
Yeah, that's just inexcusable.
But this episode is going somewhere with that. It isn't just here to hate on her.
Yeah, and
that's what I respect about it.
Yeah, and that is something. Like, it would be one thing if just like they're introducing a long running character and this had nothing to do with her, but they are going to do something with that, and the fact that there is a narrative here is nice. And I like this was kind of a good way of using, like, so we don't know that, we just know that they intended a symposium, but she's actually setting up a line for Ro, so we know that the writers are keen to kind of get you kind of having opinions about this character. Shut up, Riker! Dang.
Also, putting our main characters in an unfavorable light, saying, "Hey, look, you guys are on this nice, comfy ship, and you do things that are nice and cool, but like that's not how it really is out there." And like that's a real big shift for this show.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like, and Data's like, being kind of like, "Hey, look, well, then who should we talk to for this whole diplomacy thing?" And he's like, "They don't want to. They don't want to talk." And I feel like her and Worf should be friends at some point.
You want that. I like that Worf says the stupidest thing possible. We can defend ourselves.
Yeah, I know,
that's going to solve this, right, guys?
Yeah.
They come at us and we shoot them. Like, that's going to solve this? And like, no, Worf. No, we can't just shoot our way out of terrorism. That's a stupid idea, Worf. Shooting our way out of terrorism. So yeah, eventually Ro does give them some help.
Yeah, and he won't ask you to dance.
Oh yeah, sick burn.
Yeah, it's
sick burn
for sure.
So this is the same place they did the Darmok shots from last week.
Neat. Yeah, I can see that.
They did some pickup shots here because they had to rent the place again, and they're like, oh, we could use some more shots for Darmok, and so they do.
And so this is we don't really get to see like how this is constructed because we're, I guess, essentially walking down Main Street. As far as this camp goes, but I would have liked to seen a little bit more kind of nuance. Good.
I do want to say here that Ro is quick with her hands because that comm badge is still in her chest.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because it was on her jacket. Yeah. She takes the jacket off, and bam, still in her t-shirt there.
Yeah.
Never doubt how quick Ro's hands are.
Yeah. That's legit.
So, yeah.
She grew up on the streets. She knows things. Got street smarts.
And she does.
I do like how this whole, like, when she said, like, hey, no, you actually got to call me Ro Laren. That's kind of our custom. That wasn't just a throwaway. We keep doing it, and that's good. Yeah. It is just one of the little things that make Picard such a great diplomat and add some nuance to this episode. Like, you have to understand the people that you're interacting with. Yeah. You can't just go in there like you're freaking Romans. Right. And just shout Latin at them louder than before and call that diplomacy. You can't assume that your way is automatically the best way. And obviously you understand all their situation perfectly and what they need. You have to ask questions and listen. Yeah. And this whole conversation is very understated. This actor's name, I didn't get this actor's name. Yeah. But he's just great at it. Yeah. Because I like how it's like, hey, look, man, I didn't, like, we're not going to do anything, but I don't, like, he's like saying, it's not that I don't agree with the Federation, but we can't help you because you've just been sitting on the sideline so everyone's getting tortured. So why should I give a crap about you?
Yeah. And Picard throws out a lot of platitudes, like, we were sad, but, our policy forbids us from interfering.
I for one cried myself in my automated shower while listening to Beethoven's Second. So just letting you know how important it is to me.
Yeah, and it's Federation policy, the policy of non-interference, the Prime Directive, does have consequences.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about spacefaring versus not spacefaring peoples, yeah, okay, you can kind of buy that, like, hey, yeah, they're killing each other, but we can't really do anything because we're going to make it worse. But then when it's two spacefaring peoples having an issue and you're also a spacefaring people, then it's kind of like a galactic peer. And don't you have some sort of responsibility to do what you can in that situation, even if you don't have a treaty or whatever?
First, I want to mention that this guy makes a sizzling point, which is, there was a terrorist attack on the Federation colony.
Yeah.
Now you're here to help us out.
Right.
We should have made a terrorist attack on the
US.
a Federation colony a long time ago.
We've always wanted things from the Federation.
This is getting stuff done.
Yeah, yeah. And here he kind of doubles down on that. He's like, hey, listen, you got a world of diplomats and strategy and stuff. My world's about blankets. And he's like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah. So we'll just throw we'll make as much blankets for every man, woman, child before the night falls, and Worf, do what you can to help these folks.
Yeah, Worf, find out their emergency needs. We have like one or two of those dehydrated hospitals. You just add water to the hospital. Just ship some of them down.
Yeah.
That's going to be... We got a dozen of them. I tripped over one yesterday. I don't know why it's in my quarters.
Matter of fact, I still have one in my pocket.
It's like, you could have done this the whole time? Picard's like, I guess we could have. And like, that's the deal is they're in like unclaimed space.
Right.
So neutral, like, why aren't these Bajoran refugees in the Federation, where the Federation has plenty of everything?
Yeah.
And even if people have to cut back on their holodeck rations by like 10%, it'll help the Bajorans live like a life. Why can't like the Federation send people to make an economy for these people?
Yeah.
Like, why does this very 20th century problem exist in Star Trek? But it does.
Yeah.
And it asks a lot of questions about our universe that I don't think this series is ready to answer. But I'm glad that they're asking those questions of us.
You definitely kind of get this situation that this is like life informing art kind of thing. And so like, oh yeah, cool. We can just kind of turn this into an episode of Star Trek. But then you realize, wait a minute. I don't know if they realized it or not, but then they were like, oh, they just come up here like they're cheerleaders, right? Like, ooh, let's welcome the new girl. She's like, get out.
Look,
they're like,
she's the special guest star. They're gonna invite her to the popular kids table.
Yeah. Why is Troy there? Ooh, burned.
We see the entire crew is like uncomfortable with her or trying to get comfortable with her, and she's just refusing.
And like the man,
and so
and then the man-child Geordi, who's like expert with women, is like, I wouldn't turn my back on her. Like, dude, what? Like, don't you trust your captain implicitly? If your captain sends you on a away mission with her, that means that you have to kind of have that same trust. Like, what happened? Like, it implies that you don't trust captain, doesn't it?
8 people died. And whatever she did, it was like famous across the fleet.
Yeah.
So it's a big deal. And, blah, blah, blah. Deanna should do things Guinan is doing. But Guinan is great here.
Yeah.
She's trying to make friends with Ro.
And I guess this is kind of a scene where I would say, oh, cool, Guinan's getting lines that Troy should have. And that isn't to say that I'm not a fan of Whoopi Goldberg. I somewhat resent the need for this character. And I like, you could have put Whoopi as any character and she would have nailed it. And
yeah,
I just wish that they would have it seems like at some point in time the writers were like, oh man, we need someone with empathy that could act like a counselor of some sort for the whole ship. Oh man, Whoopi wants to join our show. Yeah, we'll write that for her. And it's like, whoa, hold up.
Yeah, but like, she is good at what she's doing.
Yeah,
I know we bang on about Guinan getting Deanna's lines a lot, but like, she nails it. And Guinan's an interesting character who lets us do things as a non-Starfleet officer that our Starfleet officer characters really can't do.
Yeah, and sometimes she kind of phones in the magical black folk trope a little too hard, and that's another thing that kind of rubs me the wrong way about this character. But there are times when it's really good to have Guinan around, for sure.
Yeah. And this enigmaticness works, where she's like, I'm Guinan, I know 10 bar, I told you that.
Yeah. Right.
And the line about, look, I never stay anywhere long enough to make friends, and Guinan going, oh, it's too late.
Yeah.
I'm your charismatic, pixie dream friend.
Right.
Now.
And so here's the thing, though. Like, later we learned that Guinan is very discerning with her friends, and I'm like, is she? I mean, does she have some weird, like, does she just scan her whole history, like, through her mind or something? We don't know about it? Like, it doesn't seem like she's that discerning.
It'd be great if Picard turns to Riker's like, Guinan is really discerning about her friends. And Riker's like, we're friends, aren't we? And Picard's like,
We are work friends.
And Geordi's like, yeah, Riker, what you and Guinan have is nothing like what I have with Guinan. She's really giving me, and Picard's like,
All these folks think they're friends with Guinan. They're not.
Look, here's Guinan's top 10 on MySpace. That she sells on MySpace.
Yeah.
And because this is a science fiction show, we're going to call it MySpace. So, it's you guys are not on it.
Yeah. Look at this jacket.
It's me.
This jacket's here.
Bobort clam bag. It's actually different. They softened up the motorcycle shoulder thingies.
Yeah.
So it's just like regular fabric.
And now it flares
looks like it's
out.
made of velour.
Yeah. It flares out a little bit at the bottom now, so it's almost like it's like more of a sack.
Yeah. So it's like you just look, whenever I meet with this terrorist leader, he's got to know that we can be hard, but also soft as slave. It's diplomacy, Deanna. Diplomacy.
Right, so we're going sight unseen to a location we knew nothing about. What's kind of interesting is picking up molecular displacement traces. In my mind, when I hear that, I think, are you like recognize that you're in a stale air environment and you can extrapolate like a path via like disturbed like dust mites in the air? That seems pretty neat. That seems like a neat thing to do, but I really don't know if that's what they're doing here.
I don't know. There were molecules. There were people here. Yeah. They were displaced.
We got fancy space technology. Let's just do this thing.
It's going to be dangerous. Phasers out. Should we be thinking like...
Notice how, phasers out. Thumb, as expected, Worf has his finger on the trigger. But no phaser shots. And all of a sudden we can't acknowledge Picard or Worf with our communicators.
Yeah.
And so this is the reason why. And it's like, I feel
we need
like
to be extra careful. Let's blunder in.
Yeah, I know, right?
Blundering accomplished. Great job, Lieutenant
Commander. In all fairness, Troy hid behind the android, so...
Troy's like, Data, there's like 8 people up ahead.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, oh man, if we only had someone with a power that could sense things through rocks, even across...
I thought there was some tension... Yeah, that's definitely tension. I thought maybe it was just gas.
Yeah,
but it was definitely tension.
Every time Worf brings down, there's always tension. It seems like every time the transporter he's got a fart, and Klingon farts are pretty brutal. So
yeah, it's overwhelming. So
this is interesting. This dude has been through some stuff, right? He's got a melted face and a voice prosthetic, and that's something.
Yeah, no. I mean, all things done by the Cardassians, who we've met before and who were dicks. So, we're beginning to see a larger picture here of maybe these people with like absolutely nothing aren't the biggest threat to the Federation you might imagine. Like maybe they're just people trying to survive and
see, that's the thing.
Only got blankets because something got blown up.
Yeah. And that's the thing here, too. Like, Picard is willing to throw Ro under the bus until Guinan, vouches for her. And if Picard were really if he really had an open mind, he'd give her some benefit of the doubt regardless of that. And so it falls a little flat, when he's like, okay, let's work with each other. Because, Guinan had to come in here and do a thing. I kind of would have expected his open mind to be there, whether the Guinan vouches for you or not. But I don't know.
I think we sell really hard the idea of just how incredibly Ro Laren messed up.
Yeah.
Troy's uniform has changed. It was purple on the surface, and now it's this lighter purple.
Now you perceive things like no fear or deception.
Hey, Deanna, is there an ambush in the next room? Shut up, Wolf. Maybe you should shoot it after a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think they sell how badly Ro was handled at the court-martial, right, and how bad her reputation is. And I think Picard, and she acts within that idiom. She acts exactly as they would expect someone with that background to act.
Yeah, and we kind of got we talked over a bit, but we kind of got from the conversation with Guinan that maybe she kind of took it on the chin. She cooperated with the court-martial, and she didn't give a lot of information about what happened. So she feels like she's responsible. Whether she was actually responsible or not is another story.
Right. And this scene where Guinan eventually talks to Ro, and Ro is like, look, I'm just going to give you a whole list of negative thought patterns that are actually cries for help. Yeah. And Guinan's like, no, I'm going to hug you. It's okay. It's not your fault. It's not your fault, Ro. It's not your fault.
Yeah. No, that's...
She's going to go full Robin Williams. Yeah.
I like this. This is kind of interesting response. You got that polls reversed. Yeah. I don't know exactly how to take it, but I kind of get what she's saying here.
Yeah. And, like, she wants to be happier. She doesn't know how to do it, and she feels completely powerless. And that is so part of her identity as someone who's a refugee and who has been a victim and is trying to get past that.
Yeah.
This show does interesting things when it has characters that it allows to be mentally ill, honestly. Like Barclay.
Or have some trauma in their past that they're working towards, and they let that trauma have some space in the narrative.
And Ro is a flawed character, and Barclay is a flawed character.
Right.
And they're more interesting for it, I think. And they have way more facets than Dr. Crusher or Will Riker.
Yeah. Who seem kind of hollow. I mean, Crusher seems pretty hollow at this point. I mean, her most defining characteristic is she's a bad mom.
And now that Wesley left, have we even seen her?
Yeah. Right, yeah. Good point.
So
both her and Troy are in the cool kids club that don't get screen time. Right.
And eventually, we know that she dances a little bit. That comes up.
I mean, yeah.
But, what's interesting... we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So
here she's kind of like she's telling the stories like, I had to trust one man, and that man is, it's Picard. Of course it's Picard.
And we get another noodle incident, by the way. Ro's history is a noodle incident, and Guinan's history with Picard is a noodle incident.
Yeah.
And at this point, anyway, we haven't explored it at all.
Yeah.
And both of those things imply a much larger universe than what we see, as do the geopolitics of this episode.
Yeah.
This episode sets the groundwork for Deep Space Nine.
So she just drops that bomb. She's my friend, and bounces. And that's like, it's almost cultish. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like she came in, she said the secret word, and now everyone does a 180, and it's like, whoa, okay. And so we don't really know much about Guinan, but we know that was a big deal apparently. And so
But people,
go ahead.
People trust her judgment.
Yeah,
And best of both worlds, she's like, hey, Riker,
right?
Picard wrote the book on the ship. You gotta bury the guy. You gotta kill the past.
Yeah,
and keep moving on. I learned that from an old friend of mine named Kylo, because that was a long time ago, but. You don't know where I am or how old I am.
Yeah. So. And so here we kind of get like another narrative of what's kind of going on that involves the Admiral himself. That maybe he's the one that's looking to supply some weapons to terrorists, and it's like, wait, what?
Which is the Star Trek thing.
Yeah.
where, I mean, Kirk did this, right? Kirk gave weapons to...
But I mean, Kirk kind of did it like in a fast and loose Riker sort of way, not in a calculated, I'm doing this because it's that, I want revenge. Because that's what the Admiral thinks. The Admiral thinks that the Bajorans attacked Solarian 4, and so he wants revenge. So he's going to covertly supply... I assume what's going to happen is he's going to covertly supply weapons to this terrorist, and then when the Cardassians blow them up, he's going to point the finger at Rose. She's going to be back in the stockades.
Yeah, the plan as presented to Ro, is that he will help the Bajorans gain their independence through covert military support, right. Which we've already had in this series. That was a stupid idea. And then also, that's something that the Romulans tried to frame the Federation for to cause strife with the Klingons last season.
Yep.
And that's whenever they mind-controlled Geordi. So, obviously, that seems like something people would do.
Yeah.
But now we get the roast storage. I gotta feel was in the audition for this part, this speech.
Yeah, this is the thing that she had to deliver to get the part or not.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is kind of wild. You think about such things, and this is not outside the realm of human experience. And someone who could have kind of gone through such a thing at such a young age is kind of it's a wild deal. And I imagine it's hard to open up about such a thing. So this is why this is a poignant scene that's pretty heavy. Yeah.
And the scene is she's sitting on Picard's couch and she says, "Hey, when I was a kid, a Cardassian gave me candy. He brought me into a room and they made me watch as my father was tortured and then killed.
Right. And
I watched him beg, and I've been ashamed to be Bajoran," which is exactly in line with, the dehumanization tactics of people like the Cardassians.
Right. Yeah.
And, we've come to see more of Ro, where she's a person who's really trapped in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And because she's got this black mark on her that follows her wherever she goes. Wherever she goes in Starfleet, she's like, "Hey, look, I want to serve in Starfleet, but you see how your crew's acting with me, right? And I'm not throwing away my Bajorian heritage as well. So, what the hell? What do I do? You tell me what I got to do, Picard."
Picard looks away and sighs and says, "Damn, I should have more thoroughly interrogated all those times that Worf had these problems." "Can't I just yell at you while you're stoic and apologize?" And Ro's like, "No, sir."
Yeah, so this is what we get. Now we finally have Picard's mind pried open. And now he's kind of like, all right, he's taking a survey of what we're at. Have you talked to Orta? Have you talked to Admiral? What do I have to work with here? And so, he realizes that he has a lever he can pull because Orta doesn't know a thing and the Admiral doesn't know a thing. And this is when we kind of realize, hey man, you wanna pull a caper? Would you like to pull a caper with me, Ensign Ro?
She's like, "Captain, I don't know who to trust." And he puts his hand across the desk and he takes her hand and he's like, "You can call me Papa Picard."
All of my other crewmates do.
Forget your daddy issues. You just call me Papa Picard. I'll fix it.
You should have been here last week when I was on. Never mind. I lost it.
And we do. This is sort of a class one. It's a great multi-layered scheme that we're running.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so here we're, and I see it's weird for me when an admiral of Starfleet, who I imagine it's you have to be at least 35 before you can ever get to admiral, and who knows with intimate detail how much logs Starfleet keeps on literally everything, that he thinks that he can get away with stuff. You know what I mean? He had to wipe so many logs just to be able to get her out of prison.
Yeah. And the thing is, the logs for her communications with him will,
corroborate.
Corroborate that. But, he has an official mission, so he doesn't need to, falsify much. He's like, "Look, your official mission is that the Bajoran's going to help you with the diplomacy. Bing, bang, boom." That's perfectly legit. And then, off the record, he talks to her. He's like, make her to this offer.
Well, right. But I mean, like, where did he talk to her off the record that wasn't in their purview of Starfleet logs? Like in prison, they log everything in prison.
Well, I mean, once she was out of prison, she was walking around that starbase.
They log everything in a starbase, I'm sure. Anyway,
I mean,
but
they may put everything on camera. It doesn't mean that it's like
audio.
automatically monitored in red flag. It's not like an Amazon f***ing starbase. So,
or is it?
Could be.
But this is kind of interesting how we're like, hey, this is very economical. It's like, hey, like we're escorting these Bajorans, and the Bajorans like, be advised, we can only move at half impulse. So. This is also setting up a line that Picard's going to use later against the Admiral, which I think is really nice. Because you totally don't see it until after the fact. You're like, oh, dang.
No. I mean, it would take them years at Impulse to get anywhere, so they could have been limited to Warp 1, but whatever. We're just going with it.
Yeah.
It's a story.
Yeah, we trust them as competent in evaluating these sorts of things.
Yeah. So... and here it's still dramatic because we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But Picard and crew have this thing timed out.
Yeah. Like we know that there is some sort, we have a reasonable expectation that there's some sort of caper being, gone through, but we don't know how far it extends. We don't know what it is. And it's kind of like, you watch certain shows and they're like, oh no, you killed me, and then that person disappears. It's like, that was never me the whole time. And it's like, you could always kind of do that layer. It's like, you did what I wanted to do. Nah, you did what I wanted you to do. And then who knows who's right.
Yeah. I want to say that the Cardassians are back. They're going to have different uniforms the next time we see them.
This guy's very, like, asymmetrical. I don't know if he's, like, slouching in... if that was intentional or not, but if you just look at him, like the top part, the left side of his top of his head is like poofy, but the same area on the right is like flat. It's kind of weird.
It is super weird, and I don't know why. Maybe they just like, asymmetricality is evil. And I'm like, that's a messed up message. Like, you don't have to use that shorthand. He could just be evil. Like, that's fine.
Yeah. And but maybe it's like some sort of cinematography tactic to make the viewer kind of feel uncomfortable or not like those shots with the Cardassian in it. I'm not sure.
Again, I think you're just using that shorthanded. I don't think you need to do that. I think it's just like there are people in real life whose faces are asymmetrical, and they're not evil. They're not Cardassians.
Yeah. This dude.
Like they're just some people are asymmetrical.
Yeah,
so.
I would have liked it better where it's like, instead of saying what do you plan to do with the Bajorian vessel? It's like, we intend to destroy it. It'd be like, we intend to give it sugar candy.
Yeah. It's like, dude,
didn't you
dial it back?
Yeah, you kind of gave up the whole pretenses here, didn't you?
You got to keep the crypto in your crypto fascism,
right?
Buddy.
Yeah, exactly.
If you just come out and say the silent part out loud, it's bad.
Yeah, exactly.
At that point,
we have dog whistles for a reason.
What are your career options? Fox News.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, so here we go. Oh, I love this scene though. I love this scene with the Admiral, because what happens is that Admiral's like, it's up to you, Jean-Luc, and Picard's like, and like, let him have it.
He even kind of is like, hey, listen, I get it. You want to let these guys die? I'll support you. And he's like, I'm not so sure. He's like, you sure you're not sure?
Yeah, because Picard's like, I might let him die. And the Admiral's like, well, if you got to. And then Picard's like, no, second thought, I'm going to let him live. And the Admiral's like, well, I'm going to order you to let them die. And you can see how he's trying to play Picard with a light hand. And Picard like jerks around and makes him tip his hand.
Yeah, and this is kind of a good scene as well, like, because this bit of dialogue, sometimes you wouldn't get this. You'd be like, something would have happened. It's like, the Admiral betrayed us just like I thought he was. Well, we should expect a court-martial, roll credits. But doesn't happen off scene. We get it, like, we're experiencing it now, where he's like, you fall into my trap. Because he's giving a Picard speech about what's really going down.
Right, and it's as much for our benefit as the Admiral's.
Right.
But also they don't like that whole interchange with the Admiral. Like they don't hang anything on that. Like it's just there, and if you get it, you get it. And they trust us to partake in it. And that's really great, and it's smart, and it's not like trying to handhold us any more than it really has to.
Yeah. Like, oh yeah, we'll discuss this further at your court martial.
Yeah. And, Picard here actually stands up to all these guys and is like, well, here's your plan. I know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
And the deal is that he's not just being an idiot who's like, I understand your plan now, and I'm going to thwart it.
Right.
He's like, no, I have another thing where I know how this is going to end. And whenever it ends that way, I'm already a step ahead of you. I'm not just dialoguing, monologuing things for the audience.
Yeah, I'm not. This isn't me posturing. This is me knowing what's going on. And what I think is interesting too is that you kind of assume, because later on there's a bit of dialogue about Connolly's court martial, and you kind of assume that this whole thing was being kind of logged in some way, so that he has all of that. Even though it was a secure communication. No, this is the secure communication. And he's like, no, let's put it on the bridge. No, that's fine.
It's so great. Like, we talk about Picard monologuing.
Yeah.
And keeping his attentions from the crew. There's something revealing it.
Yeah. But I mean, this is
just so great.
This is a good thing from a leader to show that, hey, listen, I trust my crew. That he can say what he wants to say to me to everybody.
It's a secure channel, sir.
Yeah.
Oh, put it on the main viewer. We're going to put that on blast.
I love it. It's good.
Catch this and Snapchat it to my Twitter, sir. To my Twitter, Commander.
Just entrapping an admiral. Might delete this later.
Oh yeah, this is big Picard energy. So, and that the guy's like, they're terrorists. Why do you want to protect them?
Right.
And he's like, dude, I got bigger things than terrorism, ideals, integrity, principles. The kind of stuff that makes us the good guys.
Right. And so here, this is where we use that line that they set up. He's like, come on, man. The Oda ships are old and obsolete. They can't move, don't have warp capabilities. And so him not talking about not reaching a star system and them only being able to move at half impulse really kind of corroborates the whole, hey, come on, man. You kind of fell for their trap, hook, line, and sinker. You should have known better.
Because all he saw was the terrorists and the threat.
Right.
And he thought, how can we get rid of them?
Right. And he was willing to subvert Starfleet to do that, which is discomforting, right?
He was willing to use the goodwill of Starfleet as a peaceful organization to kill terrorists instead of trying to address the root causes of the terrorism. Oh, we're going to resettle you. Oh, it's going to be so great. And then he was just going to let the Cardassians have them.
Yeah.
Fucking horrific.
Yeah, for sure. And not something we're too unfamiliar with here. We lost Picard's jacket, which is, a good thing.
Thank God.
And so this is where we're always I guess going back to prison, huh? And it's we could make it to the prison in a few weeks, but we got other stuff to do. He's like, oh, okay, well, I'll find some other boat to turn myself in. He's like, or...
Yeah. Come on, you can stay here.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I have a habit of taking reckless, impulsive young women from awful worlds under my wing, and they only die most of the time.
Yeah, only most.
So
I have, I would say, above average track record. And I like this line right here. This uniform, it doesn't fit. And he says that can change. And he says that some of the best officers in Starfleet want Starfleet to learn from them. Because she said, I think Starfleet should learn from me.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. This is it.
Yeah. And it's good. And they negotiate this. And in a lot of ways, Ro is, not just happy to be here.
Right.
Starfleet has to prove something to her.
But it's good. She has really good long-term goals. Like, we don't really have much of that from anyone in the crew, really. Like, this is like, hey, I don't agree with Starfleet, and I think they should learn the thing. But I mean, what's Geordi's long-term goal? Like, just climb up the ranks and be a good engineer? What about Data? I mean, Data has some, I guess. He wants to be human, so that's something.
Yeah, he wants to be human. And everyone else is just kind of like, I'm I'm a division head. I'm good.
Yeah.
And Riker's like, I want to be a captain. It's like, you should probably learn a thing or two.
I really
Will.
I really hope like her putting that earring on was like code for like, I get to pimp slap Riker. Oh, when we get back on board. Who's gonna read now?
I'm sure she does in Conundrum, just, not conventionally. So anyway, so that is Ensign Row.
This was a good episode. I really enjoyed it. I think some of the criticisms I have are more because of the times of when this was written and just kind of how that worked. Like, like you said, like some of American politics are kind of baked into the reasoning of this episode, and if you've been following along, those don't really age well. But beyond that, I think this is a good episode.
I think it effectively interrogates those American political principles.
That's fair.
Next week, we are going to be watching Silicon Avatar.
We have what looks like, I'm going to just make a call here. I think that's an elderly woman. We don't get much in the way of like a face. We have her like in profile. But I think that's a woman who is kind of putting a hand on Data, and it looks like he's about to tell her, take your hands off me. Don't you ever talk to me or my Data son again. No, it looks like he's about to like he's listening intently, and I think they're either in some kind of different ship or he's at the his normal terminal, and this is what we get by way of summary from Netflix. Riker, Data, Crusher, and other crew members are setting up a colony on an Earth-like planet where they're hit by an electrical storm. Oh man, electrical storms. If you can solve those problems, then you can solve like the majority of problems in Starfleet.
It sounds like a camping episode from that description. Yeah. It's not
right when they were about to tell ghost stories, the electrical storm hit.
They just broke out the sandwiches.
Everyone has a bad time. This is when the guys have a bad time during a camp out.
We will see next week, and until then, remember Rand. I'll make this short because no one likes credits. Star Trek is property of CBS Television Studios and Paramount Pictures. We are watching Star Trek on Netflix. We are talking over Discord, and we are recording and editing on Audacity. The Beige and the Bold is hosted on Anchor and can be found on most podcasting platforms. I would also like to thank our senior officer Patreons for supporting the Beige and the Bold. They also make video editions of this podcast and remasters of old episodes possible. So thank you to Tracker by Moonlight and Miss Jess. If you have any questions or concerns about the show, please contact me at vanvelding@gmail.com or on Twitter @vanvelding. Thank you, and remember Rand.